0147 local time. Northern Persian Gulf. The water here does not move the way open ocean moves. It sits flat and dark, pressed between two coastlines barely 35 miles apart at the narrowest point. Oil tankers slide through the corridor in both directions, their navigation lights tracing slow green and red lines across the black surface. A crescent moon hangs low over the Zagros Mountains to the north. On the horizon, the faint glow of offshore platforms reflects against the haze. Nothing about the scene looks unusual. Aboard the USS Pioneer, an Avenger-class mine countermeasures ship transiting the upper Gulf, the watch rotation is quiet. The ship is small by Navy standards, just 224 feet of fiberglass hull riding low in the water. Its sonar equipment extends beneath the surface, sweeping the shallow seabed in long, methodical passes. The crew runs the same pattern every transit: slow speed, constant monitoring, routine work. Then the sonar display changes. A console operator in the ship's operations room leans forward. On his screen, a faint shape appears against the acoustic background of the seafloor. Small, round, resting on the sandy bottom at 90 feet. He adjusts the filter. The shape becomes clearer. He marks the contact and runs the classification against the library. The computer returns a match in 4 seconds. Bottom influence mine. Magnetic and pressure trigger. The operator sets the marker and continues his sweep. 30 seconds later, another shape appears. Same profile, slightly different orientation. He marks it. The sweep continues. A third contact, then a fourth. He counts them quietly as the sonar pass completes. 11 separate contacts in a 600-meter corridor directly across the shipping lane. He picks up the communication line without raising his voice. Operations? Sonar. I have multiple mine contacts. Request immediate supervisor. 0203 local time. The tactical picture aboard the USS Pioneer updates rapidly once the sonar supervisor confirms the initial classification. 11 contacts become 16 as the ship completes a second pass at reduced speed. The mines are not scattered randomly. They follow a deliberate geometric pattern, staggered rows, overlapping influence fields, positioned to maximize coverage across the full width of the navigable channel. Whoever laid them knew exactly what they were doing. The Pioneer's commanding officer studies the plot. The spacing is consistent with a professional mine-laying operation, not an improvised threat. These were placed recently. The sediment around each contact is undisturbed. Seabed currents in this section of the Gulf would begin to cover a stationary object within 6 to 8 hours. That means they went in sometime after sunset. The commanding officer reaches for the tactical network. He needs to report, but he also needs something else immediately. A larger picture. Because 16 mines in one corridor suggests this is not the only corridor. At the same moment, 240 miles to the southeast, a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft completes a banking turn over the central Gulf and settles onto a new heading. Its sensors have been tracking surface contacts since takeoff, the routine work of monitoring small vessel traffic through restricted waters. Tonight, the traffic was heavier than normal. 3 separate clusters of small, fast boats operating without navigation lights, moving north from Iranian coastal waters shortly after midnight. The crews logged the contacts. They watched the boats run their routes and then stop. Now they understand what the boats were doing. The P-8's mission commander pulls up the track histories and overlays them against the Pioneer's mine report. The geometry lines up precisely. Each cluster of Iranian small boats corresponds to a section of the shipping lane. The boats ran their routes at low speed, paused, then returned toward Iranian waters. 3 separate mine-laying sorties, 3 separate corridors. The P-8 commander runs a quick estimate of coverage. If the pattern holds across all 3 areas, the number of mines in the water is not 16. It is far larger, 0218 local time. The report reaches the carrier strike group within minutes. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical officer pulls the full P-8 track data and places it alongside the Pioneer's sonar log. The picture that emerges on the large display is immediate and precise. 3 minefield corridors running across the primary shipping lanes of the northern and central Gulf. The corridors are positioned to cover not just tanker traffic, but the transit routes used by U.S. Navy vessels operating in the region. The geometry is not accidental. This was designed to trap ships inside the Gulf or stop them from entering it. The tactical officer studies the placement. The northern corridor covers the route USS Pioneer was already using. The central corridor covers the primary tanker lane feeding terminals in Kuwait and southern Iraq. The third corridor, farthest south, sits across a channel used by American supply ships transiting between Bahrain and forward operating areas near the strait. 3 corridors, 3 separate threats. And until 40 minutes ago, none of them were on any navigation chart. The commander speaks quietly. How many total contacts are we estimating? The P-8 commander's voice comes back over the link. Based on the boat track durations and mine spacing the Pioneer confirmed, we estimate between 60 and 80 individual devices across all 3 areas. The room holds that number for a moment. 60 to 80 mines laid in a single night, positioned across the lanes that American ships, coalition vessels, and commercial tankers all use to move through the Gulf. The commander looks at the display without changing his expression. Get MCM assets to all 3 corridors, notify coalition partners. And I want those Iranian small boats tracked, all of them, 0241 local time. The mine countermeasures response begins in darkness. The USS Pioneer is already on scene in the northern corridor, holding position outside the confirmed field boundary. 2 MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopters launch from a forward operating base ashore and head north across the Gulf at low altitude. The aircraft carry the AN/AQS-14 side-looking sonar system slung beneath their fuselages on long cable tow lines. Once over the minefields, the helicopters will drag the sonar through the water at precise depths, building a detailed acoustic map of every contact on the seafloor. In the central corridor, a coalition frigate already operating in the area alters course to hold outside the estimated field boundary and begins deploying its own mine-hunting sonar. The Pioneer deploys its first, Mark 18 Mod, 2 Kingfish unmanned underwater vehicle 20 minutes after the expanded assessment arrives. The device is roughly the size of a large torpedo, slow-moving and quiet, equipped with a high-resolution sonar that can image objects on the seabed in precise detail. It descends to 50 feet and begins running parallel passes across the confirmed mine contacts. The images it returns are clinical and exact. Cylindrical casings, anchor chain attachments, pressure sensing horns on the upper surfaces. These are not improvised devices. The sonar technician aboard the Pioneer looks at the images for a long moment. Then he calls the commanding officer. "Sir, I have a tentative ID on the device type. These are EM-52 variants." The commanding officer says nothing immediately. EM-52 mines are not simply bottom mines that wait for a ship to pass over them. They are rising mines. When the pressure and magnetic sensors detect a target, the mine does not detonate in place. It launches a rocket-propelled warhead upward from the seafloor. It can attack a ship that is not directly above it. It can engage targets moving at combat speed. The engagement envelope of a single EM-52 covers a radius of roughly 100 meters. Across a corridor seeded with multiple devices, that coverage is nearly continuous. The commanding officer keys the network. Pioneer actual to strike group. Confirm mine type as EM-52 rising mine variant. Recommend no surface vessel transit through designated corridors until full clearance is achieved. Corridor Alpha is closed. Corridor Alpha, the northern lane, carries roughly 15% of all tanker traffic moving through the upper Gulf on any given day. 0314 local time. The first MH-53E reaches the central corridor and begins its sonar tow. The helicopter holds 30 feet above the water, moving at 8 knots, the cable trailing behind it into the dark sea. Inside the aircraft, the sonar operator watches the display as the image builds, line by line, pass by pass. The central corridor is worse than the northern one, 23 contacts in the first 400 meters. Then more beyond that. The operator keeps his voice flat. Second contact cluster confirmed. Dense pattern. Mixed device spacing suggests 2 separate delivery runs. The helicopter continues the tow. Behind it, the sonar paints the floor of the Gulf in precise detail. Steel cylinders resting upright in the sand. Some slightly tilted by the current. All of them armed. All of them waiting. At the same moment, 90 miles to the south, the P-8 Poseidon picks up new surface contacts. Iranian small boats again, same profile as the ones tracked earlier, moving north from the same coastal departure points. 3 boats, running without lights, speed approximately 20 knots. The P-8 mission commander watches the tracks for 60 seconds. Their heading is directly toward the southern corridor, the one the assessment team has not yet fully swept. He keys the tactical network. Possible follow-on mine-laying activity. 3 small surface contacts tracking toward Corridor Charlie, bearing 017, speed 19 knots. Back inside the carrier's combat information center, the tactical officer looks at the timing. The first wave of mines went in before 0100. It is now past 0300. If Iran is running a second wave, they have had 2 hours to observe whether their work was detected, whether US ships altered course, whether the response was coming. They know the mines were found, which means the second wave is not an accident. It is a message. The commander studies the southern contact cluster. Get an asset overhead. And I want rules of engagement confirmed before anything else moves. 0328 local time. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets from the carrier are already airborne, conducting the overnight combat air patrol. The tactical officer redirects one aircraft south toward the P-8's contact report. The pilot descends from 20,000 feet and locates the surface contacts easily. 3 small boats running in loose formation, leaving thin white wakes across the dark water. He circles once at altitude to confirm the count. 3 boats. No navigation lights. Heading north. He marks the contacts and reports back. Viper 2, contact confirmed. 3 small surface vessels bearing 019, speed 18 knots. Continuing north. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track extends across the tactical display. At current speed, the boats will reach the southern corridor in approximately 14 minutes. The commander makes his decision quickly. The southern corridor is the least swept of the 3. If additional mines go into it tonight, the clearance timeline extends significantly. More importantly, allowing a second mine-laying run to complete tells Iran exactly what the US response threshold is. He keys the strike group network. Coordinate intercept. Non-lethal deterrent first. Establish a presence. Force them to abort. Above the Gulf, the Super Hornet pilot banks south and drops altitude. He pushes the aircraft to just above the wave tops, closing fast. The boats appear on his targeting display, 3 separate infrared signatures running tight together. He passes directly over the lead boat at 200 feet and 400 knots. The roar of the jet arrives and disappears in less than a second. The shockwave crosses the water like a hammer. Inside the lead boat, the crew feels the aircraft before they hear it. The hull shakes. The wash of the jet tears spray off the surface. The pilot of the lead boat cuts speed immediately. 0334 local time. The 3 Iranian boats slow to a near stop. The P-8 overhead watches the surface contacts carefully. For 90 seconds, they hold position. Then they turn south. The boats accelerate back toward Iranian coastal waters, retracing their original route. The P-8 mission commander watches the tracks reshape themselves on his display. Contacts turning south, speed increasing. All 3. He logs the event without editorializing. The boats are gone. Inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the tactical officer updates the mine threat assessment. The southern corridor still has an unknown number of contacts from the first wave, but the second wave never arrived. The commander studies the full tactical picture. Northern corridor closed. Central corridor closed. Southern corridor status pending sweep completion. He looks at the clock. 0336 local time. The Gulf is quiet again. On the surface, 0412 local time. The MH-53E helicopters complete their second sonar run over the northern corridor as first light begins to color the eastern horizon. The mine map for that area is now fully built. 19 confirmed contacts spanning 900 meters. Each one geo-referenced and logged. The Pioneer's Kingfish UUV is already working. It moves between the first row of contacts methodically, imaging each device from multiple angles, confirming depth and orientation. This data will guide the neutralization team. Mine clearance is not fast work. It cannot be rushed. A single AN/S LQ-48 mine neutralization system, deployed from the Pioneer on its own tethered cable, carries a shaped charge that can sever an anchor line or destroy a device on the seabed. Working at this depth, each neutralization takes between 8 and 15 minutes per mine. 19 mines in the northern corridor alone. The Pioneer's commanding officer does the math without emotion. Full clearance of this corridor will take most of the day. That assumes no equipment complications, No contact damage from the neutralization detonations disturbing adjacent devices. No weather. He passes the timeline to the strike group. Northern corridor clearance estimate 14 to 18 hours. Recommending all traffic hold. 17 tankers are waiting in the lower Gulf. Already altered course. Already holding. Their cargo is not going anywhere today. 05:17 local time. Full daylight arrives over the Gulf as the Pioneer moves to its third neutralization position of the morning. The ship holds precisely 400 meters outside the confirmed mine boundary, its cable-guided neutralization vehicle inching forward on the seafloor below. Above the operation, a second P-8 Poseidon has arrived to relieve the overnight aircraft. Its sensors sweep the surface and subsurface picture continuously. No further Iranian boat activity. No aircraft. No submarine contacts. Just the slow, precise work of clearing a seabed that was clean 12 hours ago. Inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the intelligence section begins its own work on the overnight data. The boat tracks, the mine spacing patterns, the device types. All of it feeds into an assessment of what Iran was building toward. The picture is not ambiguous. 63 confirmed mine contacts across 3 corridors, 1 night of operations, pre-surveyed lanes, professional placement, rising mine technology. This was not an impulsive action, and it was not a small one. This was a deliberate attempt to transform the Persian Gulf into a barrier. The assessment officer looks at the numbers. Iran just committed a significant portion of its operational mine inventory in a single night. Everything that went into the water last night is now being mapped, recorded, and removed. But every mine removed also tells the clearance team something. Device serial numbers, manufacturing markings, trigger sensitivity calibrations, deployment method signatures. By the time the last mine is neutralized, the U.S. Navy will know more about Iran's mine inventory than Iran may realize it has revealed. Outside, the Gulf shimmers in morning light. Tankers hold their positions miles to the south. The Pioneer moves slowly through the flat water, its cable trailing below. In the neutralization vehicle inching forward. One by one, the contacts disappear from the map. By nightfall, the northern corridor will be open again. The central corridor will follow. The ships will move. But the mine map built overnight, the boat tracks, the device fingerprints, the timing intelligence, all of it stays. Stored inside the strike group's network, filed against the next time Iran decides the Gulf needs to be closed, because there will be a next time, and when that night comes, the Pioneer will already be in the water, listening. Subscribe to Navy with Kevin for more breakdowns of how the world's most advanced naval force actually operates.